Hey, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Erin here from Softtree. With me today is Dave Mills, and we are going to be doing a webinar on advanced features in RoadEng. This is the second part. We did one a few weeks back on some advanced features. Now this is a continuation. Today's content, we are going to be showing you how to work with multiple horizontal alignments in our new Project Explorer panel. So this is going to be done in RoadEng version 9. We're also going to be covering what the Opti-Haul graphic is and how to use it, how you can use smart pits to better determine your pit locations, and we're going to be giving you at the end a little bit of an introduction to template link components. With that, Dave, I'm passing it over to you.
Thank you, Erin. So you're looking at the location module, and I want to introduce, first of all, multiple horizontal alignments and some changes we've made to our user interface for version 9. First thing to notice here is that we've got a brand new ribbon in our user interface at the top of the screen there. This is a new ribbon tabs corridor, and we've moved some things from the home ribbon. Some of them are duplicates. So for example, assign by range is in the home ribbon. It's also in the corridor ribbon. And a few new items. For example, the Project Explorer. This is actually a replacement for the old alignments panel, and it's still available from the toolbar at the bottom of the screen and this button in the corridor ribbon. Click on that and it opens the panel. So parts of it you will recognize from the old alignments panel, which has been in the software since version 7. However, the big difference here is that we've moved much of the user interface that used to be on the top of the panel into this new corridor ribbon, and we've added horizontal alignments to this tree. So let's look at what we've got here. We've got multiple horizontal alignments on my screen, and you can see them there. You can switch back and forth to different alignments. You can switch alignments right here. Right click allows you to make the alignment current. This is the current one. Right click, make that one current. But before you switch alignments around, notice that you can view them just by clicking in the tree here. So this alignment 1A is actually a little bit short. It goes from here over to there. This alignment 1B is the same alignment but longer. It starts sooner and ends later. And here's alignment 2. Now alignment 2 is the current alignment, has a little checkbox in the tree interface, and it's also shown up here in the corridor ribbon. Alignment 2 v alignment 1, cost out of date. I need to recost if I want to see the numbers down here, bottom of the screen. When I select a different alignment, those don't change. That's still the current alignment. So the corridor still shows you what the current alignment is. And if you were looking at something like a profile and a mass haul, you would see, okay, now notice it says not currently selected there. Let's just update the recost. I can do that from the tab, and that will recost the or from the tree I can recost. But we've changed the way the recalculate range button works, and you can actually not only recalculate the current alignment and recost it, but you can do them all at once. So there, I'm going to recost and recalculate all the alignments, and then my Opti-Haul window will be up to date. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so what am I looking at here? I'm looking at a profile, an Opti-Haul, and a mass haul, but they are for the current alignment. Alignment number 2, vertical alignment number 1, and you can tell that this is not the alignment I've selected because they're faded, color is faded, and it says not currently selected here. Because it's kind of easy to click on an alignment and think, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking at. But in fact, it's true in the plan window. That's obvious. That's the one I'm looking at. and that changes when I click on it. But in other windows, you want to be a little bit careful to make sure that you're looking at the current alignment, because that's the one that's visible. Now we added this very bold selection indicator in the profile and the plan. And that is always visible if you have an alignment selected in the tree here, and it disappears if you don't select it in the tree or if you just close the Project Explorer. So yeah, when you're actually editing the profile, you probably don't want to see that bold alignment. Although it does work, you can still edit. It's still available for edit. Let's take a look at this corridor ribbon and see what's in there. So I mentioned already that the current alignment, the current vertical and horizontal alignment is in there. If something is out of date, let's say, for example, I delete this curve, okay? It comes cost out of date. So, and that's also shown here, and it's also shown up here in the Project Explorer. So it's just reminding you that if you're looking at these numbers here, they're out of date, and you can update them with the Calculate Range button. Okay, now everything's back up to date. Assign by range, that's the same thing you've seen in the Home ribbon. It's still there. Properties, dialog box here, which allows you to change which terrains are used for topo and a few other things. That used to be in the Home ribbon, pardon me, select Setup ribbon, Location Setup, Alignment. So that's the same dialog box. And we just put it for convenience in here as well. Delete range, you've probably seen that one before. That's just moved into here. Operations, a few things that you may have found in other ribbons are now here, like for example, section balance, which I'm going to talk about later. Recalculate range, you've mentioned that, has the ability to do all the alignments, not just the current one. And you can select which alignments you want to calculate if you want. This allows me to add new vertical and horizontal alignments. I'm going to cover that in a sec. And the Project Explorer, if this doesn't happen to be visible, Project Explorer can be recreated from this button. And here's where we can go into vertical alignment options, vertical optimization, horizontal alignment options, and optimization. So this is new in version 9, horizontal optimization. Not going to cover that here, but you might want to play around with that. You will need the Software Optimal license to do either vertical optimization or horizontal optimization. I'm going to open a design that has just one alignment in it and go through the process of adding a couple of horizontal alignments. Okay, so here's an alignment. It's kind of an interesting example. I put this together to show the difference. We'll come back to this also, of the Opti-Haul diagram for two different kinds of optimization. But plan window, we've just got the one alignment in here. So I can add a new horizontal alignment. Just click on the Add button here, or right-click, New Horizontal Alignment, opens this dialog box, and I can add a new alignment. So let's call it Route 2, and click on the OK button. This opens the same dialog box you get when you create a brand new location design, and we can choose to either draw our alignment or import it from an alignment. I'm going to import it from land.xml. That'll go a lot faster than drawing it. So there's my XML alignment. So again, this is exported from, happens to be exported from our software, but it could have been exported from AutoCAD or some other application because this is a standard format, land XML, shared format. When you create a new alignment, often it's nice to have no template. If you're creating a ditch alignment or something, I'll show you that in a little while, but in this case I want to put a cross section on it. I just created it, so it's selected as the current alignment. If I want to switch back to my other alignment, I can either go in here and set current, or there's a little menu item down here too, switch alignment. You've only got 2, it just switches. If you got 3, it goes through them in order. Go through that one more time. So, new alignment. Give it a name. Do I want to draw it this time? Nah, I'm going to do land XML again. Now I've got 3 alignments in here, and this is the file essentially I was showing you a minute ago, and you can easily see where they are just by selecting in the tree. So that one is shorter than that one. You can shift these things up and down if you want to change their order. You can rename them. And I think that's pretty much what I wanted to show you here. Oh, comparison, right. So these 2 roads go basically to the same spot, this one and this one. And it would be interesting to compare their costs. So what I'll do is I will, well, one of them is already selected. This one is the current one. And down here I can say compare with current, and I need to recalculate, so let's just do that. Oops, I didn't do them all. This is something we're still working on. The percent difference is disabled because they have different lengths. Well, I want to see the percent difference anyway, so we're gonna fix that. But meanwhile, it's not hard to work out the percentage difference. They're very, very similar costs. But yeah, the selected one is shown here, and the current one with the checkbox is shown here, and you can compare costs, different horizontal alignments. So all this stuff, multiple alignments and multiple vertical alignments, because this one actually has more than one vertical. All these alignments are stored in the same file. This is, there's my folder where I got it from. That's the name of the file. The terrain background is one file. The alignments is another file, and that's it. Two files to store your multiple horizontals. Now, for the next part of the webinar, I would like to show you using multiple horizontal alignments and reference features. And in this case, I'm going to add a reference feature to a, there we are, to an alignment, and I'm going to use that reference feature to define the bottom of a ditch. And you've been able to do this since version, gosh, I don't know, a long time ago. But now we can do it with a separate alignment rather than with a terrain feature. So you've always been able to reference background terrain features and tie off your templates to them. But now we can do it with another alignment. So let's create a new alignment here. New horizontal. I'm going to call it ditch. This time I am going to draw it. and I don't want any template on there. It's just a reference feature. I just need to know where it is, where the center line is. Okay. There's the center of my terrain. I'm going to edit this point over there. And again, if I don't want to see that bold alignment, I can just select up here and it goes back to the way I've set it up in my plan options. That's the line type I've chosen. Okay, so there's my ditch alignment. And yeah, I just moved the start station so it's no longer 0. I don't care. That's fine. Let's look at the profile. So I want it to be underground here. I want it to be underground there. That's a deep ditch. That's down about 1 meter. Same over there. And I'm going to put a point in the middle and make sure everything slopes down towards this creek. There's my ditch bottom. Now I'm going to use that as a reference feature to tie my alignment to it. So here's a cross section. That's the ditch. And if I go back over here, you can see the ditch is underground where it should be. Good. Switch to the main alignment. And let's make that ditch alignment visible in my section and make it into a reference feature at the same time. This is different. It used to be the only thing you had in this drop-down was background terrains. And now there are alignments as well. It still says reference terrain, but I'm going to pick the ditch alignment as my source. That's not enough. If I say OK here, it says it can't find the feature because I still need to choose which point code I'm interested in. So if you think about that, it allows me to reference another alignment and in fact pick which point code of that alignment I'm interested in. In this case it's trivial. There is only one point code, the center line of the ditch bottom. Okay, that's my reference feature, and of course I can describe it here. Calculating everything. There we go. If you want to see a brand new alignment, you make sure that it gets recalculated. Just need to attach my ditch to it. That's a template function, and I just need to replace the ditch template. So here's a ditch with a vertical tie. So what that means is it's going to connect the elevation of the ditch to the reference feature. You can even do it in here if you want. Depth, use reference feature, number 2, and there it is. Okay, and now the elevation is changed. Okay, let's copy that and stick it up in my template. Replace this one with this one. There we go. See what that did. Okay, so if I look at a cross section here, you can see that that is at the elevation of my ditch feature, just to kind of prove that. It's got, yeah, there we go. Yeah, you can see that gray line is lining them up perfectly. So it's a tie by elevation, tie vertically only, so it's not trying to stretch it over horizontally, but it is getting the right elevation, and that's working all the way along the alignment. And once again, the profile of the ditch is not visible in here because I didn't turn on the reference feature. There we go. And there's my ditch bottom. And let's project it into the profile window. Again, we'll call it blue dash. Okay. There we go. So many of you may have seen a similar operation. The big difference here is that I edited my alignment for the profile of the ditch right in this plan window, or pardon me, right in this document, and I can edit it again. I can just go back to the ditch alignment, go into my profile window, make a change, go back to my main alignment, and of course that won't update until I recalculate all. Yeah, you saw it move, I hope, in there. Right, so that's multiple horizontal alignments. In this case, we used the horizontal alignment to create a ditch alignment. It gets a little snaky over here in the middle of the creek. There's my ditch, and I don't need that anymore. So here's the design where I put in some overrides. So there's no ditch in there, but there is a ditch over here, and that was done with my sign by range, overrides, exclude ditch. Okay, so I turn the ditch on and off in different places. Kind of an aside, but an interesting one. Right, next we're going to go on to the topic of adding pits. Let's open the file, and I'll be able to show you what I'm talking about. So this is an end haul alignment. We've got a whole bunch of material to move. And in this part of the webinar, what I'm going to do is show you how you can add smart pits, and they will tell you the best place to put your waste pits, in this case, spoil pits. It's a bit of an artificial example because really on this steep side hill, there just is no place to put a spoil pit. But we're going to make some stuff up so it at least looks interesting. Okay, so this design is a vertical, well, the vertical alignment is simple. It's just a continuous grade from one end to the other. And the horizontal was adjusted so that it's basically on full bench cut all the way along. So we got lots of material. And again, let's just update the, I can do that here, update the recast so we can see our Opti-Haul. So let's take a look now while we're looking at pits at this Opti-Haul diagram. That's another thing I wanted to cover, and I think running out of time, so I'm going to kind of kill two birds with one stone here. Notice that because we're cutting all the way up, we've got a lot of material left over at the end of the alignment, and this Opti-Haul diagram is telling me that we're moving it here, there's a pit there, and here, there's a pit there. Those are called artificial pits or art pits. That's what it says in the hover tip. They are created to allow the recast to balance materials. On a steep road like this, a forest road, you probably aren't going to move material uphill. It's more expensive than pushing it downhill. So I'm going to change the way this thing calculates. I'm going to put in a constraint. This is for the Opti-Haul calculation. And I'm going to tell it to only move material backwards or downhill. Recalculate. watch what happens to the mass haul diagram, or pardon me, the Opti-Haul diagram. Now everything's moving downwards. But we still are putting everything at the end of the road in this artificial pit. So let's put in some actual spoil pits. Now I got those options from here. I could also get them from here. Pits. And there's yet another place you can add pits too. So let's put one at the beginning. Waste pit, good. Let's put one at the end. Okay. Now watch what happens. First of all, the one at the end is not going to get used. We're not allowed to move material uphill. So let's change the station for that one to be, say 525. Okay, just pick a number. Okay. So there's the pit at the beginning, there's the pit at the end, and it's using both of them. This is reducing the amount of haul required. I'm going to add in a couple more spoil pits. You can also add spoil pits using this assign by range. There's the same pits dialog box, assign by range pits. Let's just put in a couple more. So I'm going to add a waste pit at station 150. And I'm going to add another one at 250. And I'm going to add one at 325, 4. How about 400? Okay. Okay. So now the software is using all the spoil pits. Now what if it costs money to build the spoil pit? Is this still the cheapest way for the haul to work? Maybe not. Let's put in a cost value for each pit. That's right here, site preparation. So I tried this a while ago, and 10,000 seems to make it interesting. If it's too big, it's going to use one pit, and that'll be the first pit. If it's too small, it's going to use all the pits. But 10,000 seem to be kind of in the right ballpark. Of course, these numbers don't have to be the same. They could be different. Realistically, you scope out where your spoil pit's going, and you figure out how much it costs to open the pit, clear the trees, maybe remove the overburden, maybe build a berm, I don't know. Anyway, it costs money to prepare the pit. Recalculate again, recost again. And now you can see that it's actually cheaper to use just this pit, costs 10,000 to open it, and this pit costs another 10,000 to open it, and skip the ones in the middle. It's cheaper to move the material than it is to open the pit. So that's the concept. Whenever you do a recost and update your Opti-Haul diagram and your mass haul, the software is doing an optimization. This optimization does not require the Software Optimal license. It comes with RoadEng. We're not optimizing the alignment. All we're optimizing is the haul of the materials. And that's the concept. You put in a bunch of pits. You define how much it costs to open each of them, and the software will choose according to its cost, unit costs, which one is cheaper to use, or multiples. Yeah, don't forget that we put in the cost for the pit here. That's just a single number. But there's also unit cost being used to calculate cut, fill, and haul. And you need to set these up too if you want to get accurate results. But the defaults aren't bad. You're going to get reasonable results. Okay, next step. Let's look at more detail of what this Opti-Haul diagram is showing. First of all, like the mass haul, there's a concept of free haul, overhaul, end haul. In this design, we don't have any end haul. It's all going to a fairly close pit, so the haul distance is small, and the value for the free haul versus overhaul cutoff is determined in your costs here and here. There it is, 150. That depends on these numbers here. There's a simpler way to do this. You can change it to use free haul control, in which case you only get the free haul distance and a couple of other cost parameters, and then it calculates the other cost parameters. The default settings are similar to this, where it's got 3 machines using different loading and hauling costs. If I change the loading cost for the scraper, the middle machine, and hit update, it changes where that cutoff is. So I increase the loading cost for this machine, and it said, well, that means that it's cheaper to use the first machine, usually a bulldozer, for a longer distance. But if I reduce the cost of hauling, that number moves back again. So you can see how it works. It's just trying to optimize which method of haul it should use for which distance of haul. And that gets displayed in this graphic. So the green here in the mass haul is your free haul, the yellow is overhaul. Similar in the Opti-Haul graphic, the green is free haul, the yellow is overhaul. Hover, you can see the amount. So we're hauling, past this point, we're hauling 41,000 or 4.1 thousand. Past this point, we're hauling 92. It's going further, 9,200. And these numbers can be copied to the clipboard. Sometimes it's nice to put some numbers on the right-hand side here to reduce the number of categories you get. Let's just see what it looks like this. So the graphic is showing me how the material is moving and how much is moving. The table, there it is showing me where we're cutting. So, oh yeah, see that number, 2.1 meters, is kind of useless. Let's just do that again. Copy to clipboard. Let's only look at volumes greater than 100 cubic meters and distances greater than 50 meters. It'll combine some of those numbers. That's better. So there's my detailed haul table. It's telling me that I'm taking 274 cubic meters from between station 490 and 500, so it's kind of near the end. And I'm moving it to 470. Okay, that's an actual movement from the road to the road, so there's some fill involved, and it doesn't move very far. It's an average of 15 meters. The rest is going into pits, and you can see that, you know, from there's about 5,000 cubic meters there moving from 500 to the end. So that range is being moved to pit 5. There's more being moved to pit 5. This is slightly longer distance, so it's closer to the end, but it's also going to pit 5. And then the rest of it's going to pit 1, and we got some near going to pit 1 free haul, and we got some far going to pit 1, it's overhaul. So this table gives you numbers, cut ranges, fill ranges, distances. Obviously, when it's going to a pit, the range is not much. It's a point. Well, I really did go longer than I was expecting. That's the Opti-Haul diagram. It's really just an extension to your mass haul diagram. It shows you the material movement instead of the accumulated material. So it's really just taking these arrows and making them more graphically correct. As you move along this thing, it's picking up material, and you can tell how much material by just looking there. So it's kind of, that would literally be the machine number 2 moving down the road with material. That would be machine number 1 moving down the road with material. And then it shows the pits, and you can hover to see the volumes in the pits. Okay, let's do one final example. It's kind of not related to either of the first 2 topics, but a template example. Let's take a look at links, template links. Now it turns out that this cross-section template here is a pretty typical forest road cross-section template, but if you jump to the end, you can see we've got a landing template. So basically, the subgrade has been extended out on the left-hand side with no fill on it. What's that for? Well, stacking logs or something. Okay, how did I do that? Let's look at the template editor and see what's in there. It's this template, and it looks like it goes both ways. And if we expand it out, you can see that it's got the old resource road template in the middle, or component. Then there's this thing called link offset, and then there's a ditch. So that's different from the default resource road template because this link offset has been inserted. So I wanted to point out that you can always, well, you should know if you've used the template editor before that you can copy and paste these components, and you can build a list of components, hopefully in the right order, to define your template. Let's look at the example of creating this landing template from this one. So I'm just going to duplicate that, change its name. I think I've already got one called landing, so I'll call it LND2. Right. I want to put in a link between here and the ditch. So what do? Let's look at the links and connectors folder. And here are a bunch of different components. There's a link that has in it dx, dy. There's one that's got slope and distance. And there's a few more down there. This is the one I'm going to use. So I copy that. And I go to my new template. And I want to stick it between resource and ditch. So I think I select resource. If I get it wrong, yeah, I got it in the right spot. But if I did get it wrong, it's easy to shift it up and down. There's just these shift up down arrows, right? That's not going to work. That's not going to work. So that's the right spot, right after the roadway. And then I'll just go and modify its properties. So this particular component is very simple. It's just got a distance. Let's make it 10 meters and a slope. I want it to slope downward, so it'll drain to the ditch, so I'll put in, say, -3. And there's my new template created with my component. Now, you'll notice that this one has it on both sides, this one. Why did I do that? Well, I don't know in the future whether I want my widening on the left or the right. So I built this template with the link on both sides. And then, do I want to save that? Yeah, I might as well. And then when I assigned the template, oh, there it is. You can see that it says landing on the left and DF on the right. If we, there, that's how I did it. I clicked on the left thing here and I assigned the landing to the end of the road, 657 to the end of the road. But on the right-hand side, I just keep the other template. So rather than building a one-sided template and having two of them, I just have one template and I assign it left or right.